Good morning and welcome to World News here on TVP World. I'm your host, Diana Skaya. And we begin this morning with the latest updates from Ukraine. Ukraine says it has reached a preliminary agreement with the United States on the critical minerals deal. Kyiv has sought to gain U.S. security guarantees in exchange for access to its raw materials should a ceasefire be reached. Now, Ukraine's economy minister, Yulia Sviridenko, made the announcement on X.
We are happy to announce the signing with our American partners of a memorandum of intent, which paves the way for an economic partnership agreement and the establishment of the investment fund for the reconstruction of Ukraine.
Donald Trump spoke about his dissatisfaction with the way Volodymyr Zelenskyy has handled the war in Ukraine. However, the U.S. leader also told reporters at the White House that he didn't blame the Ukrainian president for starting the conflict.
I don't hold Zelenskyy responsible, but I'm not exactly thrilled with the fact that that war started. That was a war that would have never started if I were president. You'd have millions of people living right now that are dead. You'd have cities that would be open and thriving and they'd have their beautiful turrets. Those turrets are the most beautiful in the world, but they're not with us any longer. They're smashed to smithereens, laying on the ground in a million pieces, getting hit by rockets, bombs, and bullets. And so I'm not happy with him, and I'm not happy with anybody involved. I think it's a war. I know it's a war. It didn't happen for 4 years. It was never close to happening. It was never even a thought. If I were president, that war would have never taken place. I'm not blaming him, but what I am saying is that I wouldn't say he's done the greatest job, okay? I'm not a big fan. I really am. I'm not a big fan.
In an interview for TVP World, Scott Lucas from University College Dublin said that Donald Trump's administration has dropped its asking price on the mineral deal with Ukraine, making it more feasible for Kyiv.
It appears that the negotiations have gotten to the point where the Americans are only asking for $100 billion to be repaid, which is still a large number, but not as large as $300 billion. And it looks like there are commitments that some of the profits can be used for Ukrainian recovery. That's why Kyiv is saying that they think they're moving towards a deal that they can sign. Donald Trump, just a few minutes ago, in his press conference alongside the Italian leader, Giorgia Meloni, said that he expects that deal to be signed next Thursday. Well, Trump says a lot of things we can't trust, but it does indicate that there may be the conclusion of this deal finally by the end of next week.
Special U.S. Envoy Steve Witkoff and top U.S. diplomat Marco Rubio have held back-to-back meetings in Paris on Thursday with European and Ukrainian officials. The aim? To hopefully end Russia's grinding invasion of Ukraine and find a just and lasting peace. Angela Skujins reports from Brussels.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has blasted the U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff for allegedly spreading Russian narratives about the war. This is according to the Reuters news agency and comes off the back of that top U.S. official spending the day in Paris, holding back-to-back meetings with senior European officials as well as Ukrainian representatives with the aim to find a hopeful ceasefire in the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. It also comes off the back of Witkoff holding court with Russian President Vladimir Putin last week and reportedly telling the press that he was compelled by that leader's pitch to end his invasion if Ukraine gave up a range of territory. So let's take a listen to what the Ukrainian president had to say.
I believe that US Special Envoy, Mr. Witkoff, has adopted the strategy of the Russian side. I believe that it is very dangerous because he is consciously or unconsciously, I don't know, is spreading Russian narratives.
Now, that Ukrainian leader was not in the French capital for those high-level dialogues. However, the French President Emmanuel Macron was, as well as his Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot. Now, he spoke to reporters as he left the palace in Paris. Let's take a listen to what he had to say regarding the outcomes of these meetings.
These very open, very frank discussions will have helped advance the thinking of the Europeans, the Ukrainians and the Americans, who have arranged to meet next week in London to continue discussions on this basis. We hope this will lead in the very near future to an unconditional ceasefire.
US President Donald Trump previously flagged that he would end the war in Ukraine in, quote, 24 hours, but this was scaled up at the beginning of the year to Easter, and with that holiday taking shape on Sunday, all eyes will be on the calendar to see whether this can be fulfilled. Angela Skujins from Brussels for TVP World.
U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance is set to arrive in Rome on Good Friday on a visit aimed at deepening ties between the United States and Italy. The trip may also present an opportunity for a public reconciliation with Pope Francis following tensions over immigration policy earlier this year. Now, in the Italian capital, Vance is scheduled to meet with Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, as well as the Vatican Secretary of State, to discuss bilateral relations. According to sources familiar with the visit, Vance is also hoping for a brief encounter with the pontiff, which would become the focal point of his visit. Now, just days after taking office, Vance sparked controversy by suggesting in a television interview that financial motivations were behind the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops' advocacy for migrants and refugees. In response, Pope Francis issued a letter to American bishops firmly rejecting the allegations. Two people were killed in Nikopol by artillery shelling, and 5 others were injured Thursday. A separate strike hit Dnipro Thursday night, killing 3 civilians, including a child, and wounding 30 others. Our correspondent Oz Chatterjee is in Kyiv and has more.
Russia launched another series of deadly attacks across Ukraine over the last 24 hours. In Nikopol in southern Ukraine, Russian shelling killed 2 people there and left 5 others injured. Now, Russian attacks across the country also targeted Dnipro in central Ukraine, killing 3 people and wounding 30 others. So really another series of quite deadly attacks across Ukraine launched by Russia, happening not just in areas close to the front line, but areas deep into Ukrainian territory, striking civilian targets, killing civilians. Zelenskyy has used the opportunity again to ask his partners for more support, particularly in the field of air defense, where Ukraine has been struggling recently to deal with these repeated Russian attacks on Ukrainian cities. Zelenskyy on Telegram said every defense package from partners for Ukraine now, every form of support from the world for our resilience is literally protecting lives. So Zelenskyy there making sure to thank his partners for the support they've provided. But even with that support, the daily reality is Ukrainian civilians are being killed in these Russian attacks day in, day out. And Ukraine feels it needs much more in the way of air defense in particular to help fend off some of these Russian attacks on their cities. So Oz Chatterjee reporting from Kyiv for TVP World.
The best possible outcome of the Paris summit with U.S. officials would be the reassurance that the United States would continue to protect Europe no matter what. That's according to Louis Vierenga, international relations lecturer at the Baltic Defense College, who spoke with TVP World.
The best possible outcome would be that the United States provides reassurance to European allies that they're going to be there if needed, if necessary, that the nuclear umbrella will definitely stay, and that an American force posture will definitely stay. Now, the American administration has indicated for months now that they are strategically prioritizing other parts of the globe, but that they're not going to necessarily leave Europe to their own devices, but they want Europe to do more, to pay more, and to do more when it comes to their own defense. The second best possibility, because of the way that things are right now, would be for a kind of clear guideline as to what the Americans want to do, what they're willing to do, if they're going to scale down, by how much, and to have a real plan in place so that everybody knows exactly what must be met for spending, but also for force allocation.
The Polish National Prosecutor's Office has launched a probe into the mysterious disappearance of prominent Belarusian opposition activist Angelika Melnikova. Now, Polish counterintelligence is investigating potential leads.
Media outlets have reported a number of possible motives behind the disappearance. One is embezzlement of opposition fundraisers. Others include alleged espionage or kidnapping by foreign intelligence services. According to Polish newspaper Rzeczpospolita, the Polish Internal Security Agency will also look into the possibility of her being a foreign spy, possibly working for Alexander Lukashenko's regime.
All scenarios are possible right now. Definitely this disappearance is mysterious. It gives more questions than answers. Definitely Angelika is not the person who can just disappear without giving information to her friends or family. So we think that definitely Lukashenko's secret services might be involved in that. What was that? The result of pressure, the result of blackmail? We don't know, and we are thankful to Polish authorities for launching this probe, for launching this investigation. Maybe it will shed more light to this case.
Angelika Mielnikowa is the chairwoman of the Belarusian Coordination Council, an opposition body that aims to aid the democratic transition in Belarus. Mielnikowa went missing on March 25th after reportedly traveling to London. Since then, her ex-husband and 2 daughters have been allegedly found in Belarus. Mielnikowa's associates claim that her phone is also on Belarusian soil.
Poland has banned 8 law enforcement officers from Georgia from entering the country over their role in repressing anti-government protests. Now, Georgians have been protesting for months now over the democratic backsliding in the country after the recent parliamentary elections in October of 2024.
In response to the growing repression of the opposition in Georgia, Poland has banned 8 representatives of law enforcement agencies responsible for using violence against protesters from entering its territory. Poland will support the pro-European aspirations of the Georgian society.
The contract for the first section of a road leading to Poland's first nuclear power plant has been signed. Polish ministers of infrastructure and industry held a press briefing to mark the occasion. Our reporter Karolina Stoltzman attended the briefing and has this next report.
With this signature, the road to Poland's first nuclear power plant begins. However, there is still a long way to go before the facility will be fully operational. The road that the contract details is supposed to be opened in 2028. This road will be crucial when it comes to the construction of Poland's first nuclear power plant, as it will facilitate the delivery of necessary materials and equipment to build the project. Currently, coal is the pillar of Poland's energy production, but it comes with its own set of challenges, such as costs and environmental issues. With high extraction costs and the environmental concerns, the Polish government is seeking an alternative energy source, and this opens the door to the nuclear power plant project. During the signing of the contract, recent words of Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk were also discussed. He recently spoke about what he called a repolonization of Polish economy, and what he meant by those words was prioritizing Polish interests when it comes to businesses and economy.
I'm very pleased that Polish companies won the tender. This strongly aligns with Prime Minister Donald Tusk's call for repolonization or economic patriotism of Poland and support for Polish entrepreneurs.
We have a dedicated local content program that lists Polish companies eligible to take part in the development of Poland's nuclear energy sector.
Every major investment, such as the country's first nuclear power plant, must start small. And the contract details that the road leading to the project, leading to the facility, will be opened in 2028, which is exactly when the Polish government aims to start the construction of the power plant itself. From Warsaw for TVP World, Karolina Stoltzman.
Holy Week is a crucial period for Christians, marking the final week of Lent and leading up to Easter, which celebrates Christ's resurrection. Now, a Good Friday commemorates the Passion of Jesus Christ. Maundy Thursday marks the night of the Last Supper as told in the Bible. Now, one of the most distinctive Maundy Thursday traditions takes place in Spain, where the faithful participate in a procession accompanied by self-flagellation as an act of penance. with that, we end this edition of World News here on TVP World. But don't go away. Up next, World Talks with Sasha Farbach.